Time to make some picks. It should be an interesting race to win the NFC this season. The NFC East looks wide open after Tony Romo's latest injury. The Pack and the Vikings are expected to be top contenders from the North. Arguably, two of the best teams in the NFL are out west with Seattle and Arizona. And Cam and the Panthers are looking to repeat as conference champs. Max, I want to start with you. Which teams will make the playoffs in the NFC?
I'm going almost chalk here. I hate to do it, but Seattle, yes. Arizona, yes. They may be the two best teams in football. I like Seattle to go all the way this year. The Packers with Jordy Nelson back, of course. Who, by the way, they may be the best team in football. Let's see how this pans out. The Panthers, who we just saw last night, should have won that game, but okay. The Vikings, I like to get back, even with a brand-new quarterback in Bradford, because I don't see where else the team has changed very much. They had a lot of success last year. And someone's got to come out of the NFC East. I believe that's going to be the New York Football Giants. Washington, on paper, may be more balanced. I like what the Giants did on defense in the offseason. And again, really, if not for very fluky kind of collapses last year with an older coach who seemed to mismanage the clock, they had 10 wins last year. I mean, that's a 6-win team that really should have won 10 games. So I like the Giants to come out of the NFC East.
I've got Carolina coming out of the South. I've got the Seahawks coming out of the West. I've got that bad man that he is, Aaron Rodgers, coming out of the North. And much to my chagrin, as nauseated as I am, even with Dak Prescott as the quarterback, I've got the Dallas Cowboys coming out of the NFC East because I think the Washington Redskins are allergic to prosperity and their running game is suspect, and I don't know about them right now. And I don't believe in the Eagles, and the Giants' defense has to show me that they've returned to respectability before I'm willing to give them.
Defense?
Excuse me, I know that, but the running game is going to stall a lot of things because they'll engage in clock management and really chalk up time in that regard, Max. Listen and learn, brother. Now let's get to the wild card spot.
Okay.
Arizona is definitely the wild card.
Okay.
All right, my one wild card. I'm going to go with Sam Bradford and the Minnesota Vikings as my other.
Right.
There's no wild card coming out of the South. There's no wild card coming out of the East. I'm going to have the Minnesota Vikings as the wild card in the NFC North, and I'm going to go with Arizona.
You got it. So only one disagreement there. You're going Cowboys, and Max is going Giants. Let's go to the other side here, and the AFC. So the Patriots are, again, heavy favorites to win the conference, of course. The Bengals and Steelers are expected to battle for a top spot in the North. Can Andrew Luck stay healthy, get the Colts back in the playoffs, and the Broncos looking good last night in their quest for a repeat? Max, start us off again. Who's making the playoffs in the AFC?
Pats are in, as they are every year. So are the Steelers, who, if they get hot, look out, and the defense will be the tipping point, as it is with several of these teams we're talking about. The Bengals are such a well-rounded team, and I really wanted to see what they did if Andy Dalton was healthy last year in the playoffs. I think this is the year they win at least a playoff game. KC is another one. That's a really well-balanced team. The only thing they don't have is a quarterback who can throw it down the field. Denver, and I like Indianapolis. I'm very tempted to take the Jags. They couldn't have had a better offseason on the defensive side, but a 5-win team all the way. Andrew Luck's healthy. I like the Colts.
I'm going with the Patriots, the Steelers, the Broncos, and the Houston Texans. I'm a place I don't feel. I'm just not in the mood to agree with Max Kellerman. I'm liking him less and less. I don't want to agree with him.
Okay.
I'm gonna bet against Indianapolis because of their defense, though, because I agree with him about Andrew Luck. I'm gonna go with the Houston Texans in the South.
Yep.
As my wild card, I'm gonna go with the Kansas City Chiefs out west.
Okay.
And I gotta go with the New York Jets. I think the New York Jets are going to squeeze into the playoffs. I'm thinking the New York Jets and the Kansas City Chiefs as my wild card. I am tired of believing in the Cincinnati Bengals only for their ineptitude, their stupidity, or their undisciplined tendencies getting in the way. They're the most talented team.
Bengals,
Jets,
believe in Sunday. We get to start settling this Sunday.
Well, I don't know about that. It's the first game. We'll see. But I'm gonna believe in the Jets first before the Bengals because I question their discipline, not their talent, their discipline. I question the Bengals.
That's fair. I still like them over the Jets, and I like them over the Jets Sunday, by the way.
You're probably right, but I'm still not going with it.
I'm just so excited we have real football. It's that time. Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott are poised to become the franchise's first Week 1 rookie quarterback running back combo in the starting lineup since Roger Staubach and Calvin Hill in 1969, folks. Trent Dilfer had this to say about Prescott this morning on Mike and Mike.
you might be talking to the biggest Tony Romo fan in the world.
Okay.
Literally, I'd put myself, if there was a Tony Romo fan club, I would be in it.
Okay.
I think he's fantastic. I don't know if he'll ever see the field again for the Dallas Cowboys. This kid has something special to him, and it's not just the stats in the preseason. This is a kid that carried a program in the SEC on his shoulders, that no moment was too big for him. Had one person who's worked very closely with Tom Brady for a long time, who also got to work with Dak Prescott, say they have the exact same competitive temperament. That Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, same guys as competitors.
All right, so Trent Dilfer, president of Tony Romo's fan club, thinks that his
Charter member.
right, his future with that team could potentially be over. Tim Hasselback in the house. Good to see you. Thank
up,
you
man?
for
Good
to see
being
you.
with us.
It's good to be here in studio with Stephen A.
Right, and you get to be in Max's
Always
chair.
honored and privileged to have you on the show, Tim.
The fact that you're
Stephen and I
here,
are really
we're here
bond-
together.
It's so nice.
Yeah.
Isn't it nice having everyone in the studio and we're
Probably
really
should do-
bonding together?
Should do more of it.
I
Yep.
know. It's so good. Want to get lunch after?
Ganging up on me. Ganging up on me. Let's roll. Let's roll.
What's your reaction to Dilfer's comments?
Well, I think there's actually a lot of truth to what Trent is saying, in the sense that Tony Romo, he's got a broken back, right, for lack of a better way to describe it. He's had a long injury history throughout his career. And here's the truth of the matter is, let's say, for example, let's just say he's missing 8 games, okay? And the Cowboys are 1-7.
Okay.
Does he come like what? Like, you coming back in and playing a guy that maybe isn't totally healthy? No. Okay, now let's say they're 7-1. Well, if they're 7-1, chances are Dak has played great. They're rolling, and you don't upset the situation at that point.
Right.
I actually think there's more scenarios where they continue to go with Dak rather than them being, a 4-4 team. His play has just been okay. And so now you're looking for Romo to come back in and give you a spark. And I agree with Trent. I think Tony Romo is great. I think he's a great player. But he's injured a lot. This is a significant injury. And I think a lot of people, myself included, anticipate that Dak will play well.
That was a great point.
I like you, Tim.
Yep.
And I like Trent Dilfer a lot.
Here we go.
You like him a lot, and just like me?
The love is equal. The love is equal.
Yeah.
Okay, the love is equal. Here's my problem with y'all. First of all, you have to define greatness for me, because I think Tony Romo is really good and he can really play. But I also define greatness about how you step up in key moments, and there are a lot of times that he has not. There are times that he has, but there are times that he has not. And we certainly don't have any history to point to where the Dallas Cowboys have been exceptional, with the exception of a mulligan here or there when they went 12-4 a couple of years ago, and that was a catch in Green Bay that wasn't a catch, etc. But the bottom line is, Tony Romo has been very, very good at times, and there are times where he has not been very good. So to me, when you say greatness, I disagree with that.
So who would you rather have better than him? Because you reference, listen, that's a catch, and you know it's a catch.
Yes,
by
I
guess,
agree with
okay?
that. That was
so
a
it's
catch.
like, so is he not great because of that?
No, I'm not saying he's not great because of that.
The
Wasn't a
game in
catch.
Seattle, I just, with the fumble, snap, I just, to me, I'm judging it based on how hard the position is, doing the things that he does that other guys can't do.
We can get back to that, because I know Max is chilling
I
in
hear
L.A.
him.
and
I
I don't
hear
want
him
him.
saying
I
it
don't want him
wasn't a catch.
falling
Yeah,
asleep
not a-
because
I mean, it should have been, but
he's
those
so
are the rules.
comfortable in L.A. and all of this stuff. But let me say this: the other point that Trent made is this. He talked about how he doesn't think Tony Romo's coming back, but he pointed to Dak Prescott. I know Dak Prescott carried the program on his back. I get all of that. But that don't mean you're going to succeed in the NFL. I'm confident that he will, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen, A. And B, and more importantly, I agree with Trent Dilfer, but only for different reasons. I think Tony Romo's done in terms of the Tony Romo we knew in those key pivotal moments, because I think his health is highly questionable. I think he's 36 years of age. He's had 3 back injuries in the last 2 years, and he's playing a quarterback position. I just think it's one of those situations where Tony Romo's durability is such a question mark that it compromises his availability, and he's never going to be the same. That's my opinion.
So you think it's more about Romo than about Dak?
That's right.
And let me tell you something. I agree with you. And now, I don't, but what I would say is, I don't think Dak's going to fall on his face.
I agree with that, too.
Dak falling on his face would change the dynamic of that. And I think that's the key. I think Trent,
I got
a little excited about it.
Max?
Tim, it seems to me that if you look at the way Dallas is structured, though, this is the problem I have with saying, well, Romo never gets back on the field. Prescott's looked impressive in the preseason. But, let's see what happens when teams in the regular season actually game plan for him. And the Dallas plan seems to be run the ball a lot, pound it with Ezekiel Elliott. The Jason Witten will be his best friend, a tight end in the middle of the field, a young quarterback. And Des Bryant can make some big plays and all that. But still, for a kind of ball control type running offense behind a great O-line and a very bad defense, at least on paper, to me it seems as though they're going to be playing from behind a bunch, and they won't always be able to continue to play the way they'd like to play. And in the end, Dak Prescott is a rookie, never held the clipboard even for a year, and is going to be in that situation where they may have to air it out in the second half of games. He may not be ready with teams game planning for him.
I just think, listen, and all of that's true. And listen, every quarterback struggles. We'll see, a point where he doesn't play as great as he played in the preseason. That's going to happen. I guess my thing is, what's the record where Romo gets the job back?
Well, you're looking at the record. I'm not thinking about the record. I'm thinking here's where I'm coming from. I'm thinking about what are we going to see from the Dallas Cowboys with or without Dak Prescott. When I'm thinking about Ezekiel Elliott. I'm thinking about Alfred Morris. I'm thinking about Dez with Terrence Williams, Jason Witten. I'm thinking about that offensive line. I'm thinking about the defense. I'm thinking about all the parts that are around you. Tony Romo is going to be healthy enough to get back in the lineup. But if the team is flowing, okay,
they're 6-2.
If they're above 500.
And I know you're talking about the record, but I'm saying Tony Romo appears to be so fragile. If the team is vibing with Dak Prescott, let's say, for example, they're 4-4.
Yep.
4-4, 500 team. But it's because their defense stinks. But Dak Prescott and that offense is dropping 28 to 30 a game. What, are you gonna mess that up? No. Because Tony Romo, with his $55 million in guarantees, is due to come back in the lineup? I mean, please, he could be in that helicopter with Jerry Jones flying around wherever, but he don't need to be back in that lineup. That's what I'm saying.
I'm with it.
I agree with that. I mean, and that's why what Trent's saying, when you first hear it, you go, what are you talking about? He's Pro Bowl caliber quarterback not getting his job back, like we're overreacting. But I just think that there's more scenarios where that's the case than there are that's not the case.
I think that Trent is pointing specifically to Dak Prescott's potential performance.
Sure.
Well, listen,
I'm looking at the health of Tony Romo and saying,
and age.
And age, and I'm like, why do we need to go through this roller coaster like we've been prone to do in the past? Now we've got a backup. I mean, if Dak Prescott's giving you anything, I mean, hey, look. Tony Romo, listen, you got to prove that he's healthy. We can rely on you. And how can you prove that in the game of football? I don't think you can.
Yeah.
Listen, if you look at the schedule, Tim, you got a game against the Giants. They could win it. They could easily lose it. You got a game against Washington. That's not unwinnable. A game against the Bears, not unwinnable. A game against the Niners, that's a winnable game. They don't really have any games in the first 4 weeks that on paper look like, well, they're definitely going to lose that game. But then the schedule gets much tougher against the Bengals and the Packers. And all of a sudden, if Romo's getting ready to play and you're coming off 2 really tough games, and let's consider them losses, it may be as much about the momentum at the moment and what Dak Prescott looks like at the moment Tony Romo is available, as it'll be like what's their actual record. They could be 3-3, 4-2, or 2-4 after 6 weeks, and depending on how Dak Prescott looks at the moment Romo's ready to play, that may really be the factor. How's the team going? How's Prescott looking at that moment?
There's no question. Eric Mangini, former friend of the show here, probably still a friend of the show, used to always say, look, coaches get fired on when they win and lose games. You win your last 6, chances are you keep your job. There's no question that that's the case, but I just, look, if they're 4-0, the Dak Prescott, fan club that Trent's going to start that one too. You know what I mean? He's going to switch. He's going to be the charter member there.
But that was a really strong point. More scenarios potentially where Tony Romo would not return than where he would.
Nothing in life worse than Cowboy fans. Nothing.
All right.